You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. But well, good evening,
Well,
Skye, you
good
stupid bitch.
good evening to you, you stupid bitch.
And this is probably a first for us, a Tuesday night recording.
It is, yeah, Tuesday. I don't think we've ever done Tuesday.
We haven't, and just getting our shit together because we've got a very special reason to get these episodes in too sweet because a stupid bitch
Oh
is
yeah,
taking off.
going to Bali for 10 days, motherfucker.
Very nice. How many small sleeps now?
9 sleeps today.
9 sleeps, gotcha, in
Yes.
single digits.
Yes, I know. I'm so excited.
That's cool. You have to hit Kylie up for all of her tips on
Oh, she's
Bali.
told me lots. She's told me lots of
Oh,
things
has
in the
she?
past.
Oh, very good.
But I've told you we're doing the split, so we're doing 3 different places. We're doing,
Yes.
Seminyak where loads of people go, and then 2 places that people don't go as often.
Nusadua and
And
Nusa Lembongan. Oh,
Gilly
Gilly.
Gilly
Yes,
Yeah,
I've
the
heard.
party island.
Yes, I can't wait to hear about that. We're thinking of going next April. And I was thinking about doing Nusadua too, but I've heard mixed reviews.
I also have, and that's why I'm glad we're doing it first, because I've heard it's a bit of a snooze fest.
That's what I've heard. But
Which
it's
I'm
only a
actually
short,
okay with.
yeah. And it's
Um,
only a short Uber ride to fucking Seminyak or Kuta anyway.
It is. But because we're staying in a hotel with clubs on the beach
Yeah.
in that hotel, and like, you know what Tyler and I like, we can have fun anywhere, just the 2 of us. So I think it will be good for us to get that 4 days of full relaxation out of the way where we're
Yeah.
just like, ugh,
Yeah,
let's
where you
just
switch off. Yeah.
be complete sloths. Let's, pig our faces out, drink, nap all day,
Yeah.
just completely unwind. And then we're going to go to Gilly Tea, which is the party island, where it's like, make sure you take head earplugs and shit because
Oh,
it's so
wow.
noisy all the time. And that's the one with
Cool.
no cars. So it's like the island that you can, well, you can walk from one side to the other, I think, in about an hour.
Okay.
And it's all
Do you
got
reckon you'll
the,
do that?
fuck no. So the biggest club on the island that everyone talks about, it's like an Irish name. I can't pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. Is across the road
Siobhan's.
from our hotel. It starts with an I think. So it's across the road, and it's the one, and its best party night is a Wednesday night. And just by fluke, we're going to be there on the Wednesday night.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, and it's like like the only way that you can get around. So you've got bikes to get around, or there's horse-drawn carts, but they don't promote. Lots of like tourist sites and stuff don't promote the horse-drawn carts because of how the horses are cared for and
How they're
stuff like that.
treated.
But I don't see myself and Tyler jumping in a horse buggy. Hurrah! On you go.
Easy steed.
I think because the pub's across the, we're only there for 2 nights as well. So I think and Tyler's a little bit scared about going to Gilly Tea because he's just like, oh my God, what's it gonna be like if it's a party island? And I'm like, that's
A
for us to
party.
find out, my love.
Yeah. So I
So
just
he
Googled Gilly Tea for Irish pub, says the Irish Bar Grill. And on the smaller Gilly Island, there's the Irish. And then the other one that's come up is JC O'Neill's.
Oh, it must be the first one. So on Gilly Tea or the Gilly Islands are you looking? Because there's 3 islands. There's Gilly Air,
Ah, yeah,
Gilly
Gilly M
Tea,
and
and
Gilly
then
T. I'm
Gilly
looking at Gilly T.
Nemo or something.
Yeah, Mimo.
But Gilly Tea's the
Mano.
biggest.
Yes.
And then there's the other 2.
I Jiggy. Do you know what Jigga Jigga is in Bali? Oh, no. Yeah, that's Bali. Jiggy Jiggy is a
No.
root.
Oh, okay.
So I
Thanks for
Jiggy Bar.
sharing that. Tyler and I will be doing a lot of jiggy jiggies.
Jiggy Jiggies. Gilly Bong Bar.
No,
Oh, cool.
it's like a big long name, but it's definitely Gilly Tea though.
Excellent. Not the
Mm.
TIRNANOG.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah, that's it. So that's across the road from
Ternarnog.
our hotel. But our hotel is
Cool.
like the one with the pool on the sand. Like it's like the pool beach.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, I know. Very, very excited. Can't wait to just drink shit tons of cocktails and
And cheaply too.
Lays
Tia na
around.
noog.
That's
Tia
it.
na nogu. Or
Yeah,
nogue.
that's it. So that's supposed
Tia
to
na
be one
nogue.
of the biggest party pubs on the island, but it's pretty. I think there's like a whole strip of streets where it's just like
Pubs and clubs.
crazy people dancing in the street.
Cool. Make sure you take heaps of footage because we might end up going there then
Please,
too.
I'm gonna fucking smash Facebook with so many photos and videos that are like, bitch, look at me.
This where
I'm
I'm
in
at.
Bali. I'm not working. I'm having the time of my life. Look at this giant drink in my hand.
I'm having several. I guess we should let the people know that this is a show called Stupid Bitches Say What.
It is?
It is. Apparently it's an Aussie podcast about everything but also nothing.
Oh,
And also with alcohol.
you're kidding.
And
I never
more
would have thunk
importantly,
it.
always with your stupid bitch host, Skye Collett.
And Sean, stupid bitch, Beano Hepkins, plus.
And this week it's episode 100 and thrice.
100 and thrice.
And
My
it's
God,
true
we're
crime.
getting on, aren't we?
And it's True Crime Australia.
Mm-hmm.
How's that for shits and giggles?
Definitely shits, definitely giggles.
So I can always forget. Is it what are you drinking first?
It is. What are you drinking first, you stupid bitch? How
what
can
are
you
you-
forget that?
What are you drinking, you stupid bitch?
Well, I promised myself I wasn't going to drink tonight because it's a Tuesday. But here we
That's
are.
I never stopped you.
Drinking a little Smirnoff seltzer. It's natural lime. It's only 68 calories.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's not even really alcohol. You know what I'm saying? It's just 68 calories of seltzer.
It's just a little refresher.
Yeah. And it's lovely on this Tuesday evening. It's a bit warm
like
down
a
here,
seltzer.
actually, I have to say.
It's quite warm here too.
And what are you drinking, you stupid bitch?
So I'm drinking a white wine. It's a Vigene Lurac Les Perles Galac Appellation Diaralongi Protégeri.
Jesus, that's a gobful. I can't
That's what
see
she
shit.
said.
I can't see shit. Oh, yeah, I've drunk that before.
Why does it? It's because of the green.
Is that from the wine clubs?
That's from Good Pair Days.
Oh, okay. Maybe I haven't drunk it actually.
It's a 2022, and it's a bit bitter. But I did just have a shower pre-podcast, and also brushed my teeth, so it might be that.
Did you say that it was a Savvy Bee, or what is it?
Everything I said is what's on there.
Oh, okay. It's one of
Perles.
those. One of those that no one really knows what it is. It's just
I've got
It's a white
no
wine.
idea.
Please.
It's what wine?
Is it dry or split? Has to have a taste, people.
I wouldn't say it's sweet. It's very bitter, like myself.
Like a Chardonnay.
Kind of. I'm also getting wrestling vibes.
Oh, or like a Pinot Gris.
No, it's not pleasant like that.
Okay.
But how's your week been anyway?
Well, we've already talked about my little upcoming Bali adventure.
We have touched on that.
And other than that, I've got a few things that I'd like to share with you and to our listeners at home. One thing that I'm really excited to talk about is on Saturday, I made a little trip to our local library. So as you know, and hopefully our dear listeners have been keeping up with this, I'm a bit of an avid reader. I'm nearly up to 40 books in 2024 read.
Jesus.
And I have taken to buying a lot of books online. And sometimes the thrill of reading is actually adding to the stack of books that you have to read. And I have a huge stack next to my bed. And I, decide each time I finish a book what I'm going to read next from the stack. But I've been spending a lot of cash. So I decided I was going to go to the library. And because there was a few books that I've been trying to get that I can get, but they're not necessarily widely available in Australia for print. So they're quite expensive. I'm talking like, $30 or so. So I started looking in the local library catalogue, and I think I shared last time that I joined a library with your address in the last podcast, and it might not have aired yet, actually. But I decided to join my local library legally. because I live in the region, so I can. And I went there on Saturday after reserving a whole shit ton of books and making massive lists of all these books. I spent about 2 hours there going through books and came home with a whole bunch of stuff that I'm super excited about. You've got 4 weeks to read it before you have to return. I think I came home with 12 books. I can read 12 books in 4 weeks easily.
Good old library, hey?
And considering I'm going to Bali, I'm going to probably take about 6 books with me to Bali because I will probably read that many. But the books that I felt like, you know, back in the high school days when I spent a lot of time in the library because I used to love it and get teased mercilessly. But
For being such a nerd.
yeah, totally. For always being in the library. And that's what it felt like. But it's really cool and cozy being in a library. And I love just going through the stacks and looking things up on the catalogs and talking to the library staff. It was super fun. But I picked up this book that I think that you would be very interested in.
Okay.
And it's called The Final Girls Support Group.
Oh.
Can you guess what that might be about?
Yes, it's got to be about the final girl in horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? It's not turned into a movie, is it?
I'm not sure if it has, but it's by this lady by the name of Grady Hendrix, and I haven't read anything by her yet. But one of her other books, here, I'm going to cough. One of her other books is called My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I really want to read as well. And it's all real, like, unique style books, like things that, you know, you wouldn't like you know how when you read a book, it's all very common stuff. There's lots of books that are similar and stuff
Similar
like that.
vein, yeah.
In the similar genre. Anyway, so this book is exactly what you're talking about. It's about a final girl, but it's about a final girl support group. So it's a bunch of girls
survived,
that are in their 40s and their 50s who were final girls, but in the 80s, when horror movie style murders happened more commonly, allegedly, I don't know how factual that really is, because of the genre of films at the time. So it was a bit more common, you know, for mass murders to happen, allegedly, because there were so many movies about mass murders and, you know, not Scream, but we're talking Halloween and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and everything like that. So there's a whole bunch of them that are older and, you know, might have been 20 years before they were a final girl, but they've all been in this support group for like 20 years. And that's how it starts. Yes.
Have you read any of it? Not yet.
I'm about probably 3 chapters in and I'm absolutely hooked, but I've not had time to. I was reading on my lunch break today at work and I only had 15 minutes. I was like scoffing my food, trying to get through one more chapter. But it started off really well. So I'm really excited. I've got super, super high hopes for it. So I hope I'm not going to be disappointed, but it started off really good. So.
It sounds like a cool concept and very unique, as you said.
Yes, and I think it would be totally up your alley. So I'll let you know how it goes. But just a quick update on other books that I've read in the last 2 weeks since I spoke to you. A book called The Family Upstairs, which is a real culty book about people who live in a mansion. They're really rich. They lose all their money and then they start letting people come in and live there and, you know, pay for rooms and stuff to make money. And it turns into this big cult.
Oh, wow. So people come but never leave.
Yes, pretty much. And then take over and do all this crazy, horrible stuff. So that was really cool. And then it has a sequel as well, which I read both in the last week. So that was really cool. And I think that's something that you would like.
And what did you give them out of 5?
For The Family Upstairs, I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Right. For The Family Remains, which is the sequel, I gave it 3.5 stars.
Okay.
So
still held its own, but not as good.
Yeah, it wasn't as fast paced and went in a different direction. Liked the direction. But wasn't as gripped as the first one, but still very good. 3.5 stars is still a good book.
And I like it when they do that in a sequel as well, where they take the story in another way to make it a bit different to what the first one was.
Yeah, it was a lot of the same characters, introduced some new characters, and went in a different direction, but still really creepy in lots of ways. So that was really good. What else? We're watching Modern Family. So we've started that from the beginning about a week ago. Hilarious. Like,
it is so fucking good, isn't it?
Laugh out loud, where I'm absolutely wetting myself laughing. Cam and Mitchell are just the fucking best. There's so many moments where Tyler and I'm like, oh my God, that was so funny. Oh my God, that was so Vito. But they're just like such a combination too as well. It's not like you guys are like them. It's just sometimes things happen. I'm like, oh my God, Vino would so say that.
It wouldn't be the first time I've been compared to Cam.
So So stereotypical. But then in so many ways you're like Mitchell too. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard. And the same thing, like in so many times Cam's a bit like Vinny, and then other ways he's like Mitchell too.
Have you got to the episode where Cam, they do the Christmas shopping? I think they all have to do the last minute Christmas. And
No, we're
Cam's
up
with
to
the
season
dad.
2. We're up to season 2. So we
Uh,
saw the one where they got the Santa sacked. There's so many funny ones though.
yeah.
But I love the one like just how Cam always gets invested in everyone's life and he can't
Yeah.
like walk away from a drama.
What about, have you done the pumpkin chunkin one yet?
No, I
Where
don't think
they
we're up to that one
buy
either.
the pumpkin on the sports field?
No, not up for that one yet.
There was, when that first came out, may have even been in fucking New Zealand at the time, and I remember thinking Claire reminds me of you a lot sometimes with her competitiveness.
Tyler looks at me all the time and's like,
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm like, I'm not as bad as her. And he's
No,
like,
of course not.
okay.
Exaggerated, of course. But yeah, the pumpkin chunkin one she reminds me of you a little bit. Big,
But also the son, and Phil and the dumb son, fuck,
yeah.
they are funny. We wet ourselves at them too. Like Phil is so annoying, but also so hilarious,
Lovable as well.
Yeah.
What
So
about where
it's really
Lily's
funny.
locked in the car? Has that happened yet?
Oh yeah, totally. And then
That
he's
is the
screaming.
best.
He's like, "Sir, tell your wife to come down." He's like, "That's a man." What about with the Asian pediatrician though, and how he just keeps making all the really racist jokes? Like he keeps saying all the things to her about. I just want you to know we're going to bring her up with her Asian heritage, and she's like, "I'm from Illinois."
Yeah, that's right.
And then they invite her over, and the doll says "mummy," and they think she says "mummy," and they get super offended because they think she's calling the
baby
doctor
is, yeah.
mummy. Because she's Asian. She grew up in an Asian monastery for the first 3 months of her life. And they're like, they invite her over to have lunch and, suck up to her so that she'll give them special attention. And then they hate her.
Yeah.
And then they go, and then she's like, oh, my mum's like so stereotypical. And then she reverses out of the driveway and smashes into all the cars and drives off. Like it definitely crosses the line sometimes with political correctness, especially the dad. Some of the jokes the dad makes, the gay jokes, and I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah, you got to be able to laugh at yourself still. Like I get the whole it can cross a line, but yeah, you can't be too cancelly about it.
Yeah, but it's so funny. Like this, every episode we're just wetting ourselves. And the other thing I thought you'd be interested in is that we started U Foods this week in preparation for all the gorging that we're going to do when we go to Bali. And so we got like 20 meals, sorry, for $110.
Oh wow.
And we've been eating those, but the first one I had was nice, but the other two I've had I haven't loved. And Tyler's like, Skye, they're low calorie meals. What do you expect? Meanwhile, Tyler's smashing them like fucking, these are the best. He'll eat anything. I'm like, this is okay. It's
okay.
It's a little watery.
It's salt. Yeah, I don't like watery dinners at all. Vinny likes a really runny sauce. I'm like, no, I'm reducing that bolognese quite a lot.
And then we also started, is it Duolingo? Duolingo. Yeah, we started that last night. I picked the obvious one because we're going to Indonesia. I picked Indonesian. Tyler picked Dutch.
Why did he pick Dutch?
Who knows? I said to him, he goes, what will I pick? And I was like, baby, do Indonesian first because we're going there in a couple of weeks. Pick up a couple of phrases at least before we go. He's like, no, fuck that. I'm doing Dutch. I was like, okay, sure. Weirdo.
And how are you finding it? It's good, isn't it?
I only did it once last night. I got really annoyed when they started taking my hearts off me and I only had 5 hearts left. And I was like, and then because I kept making mistakes, I was like, fuck this.
You can tap on the word to see what the word will be as well when it says it up in English or their language to help you out if you forget one of them. Yeah. The thing that fucks me up with the German is just the placement of words. It really screws me over. It's in like,
because you're doing
I walked
German.
to the park. It'd be
I park walked.
Yeah, pretty much. I walked to the park on Saturday. I walked to the park. I park walked on Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday park walk.
Me. So that's what fucks me over.
But that's really it for me. How about you, stupid bitch? How's your week been?
Week's been good. I came back on Sunday after being up in Darwin for 4 nights for our work conference to a
Had to
house
say
with
goodbye
just the
to your
couch.
lover.
Said bye to him on Wednesday morning. That was very sort of sad, but it was surreal for me because I was um I was the one leaving, and I knew I was coming back in 4 days. So
Yeah.
he was saying goodbye, and then he left Sunday morning, and I got back Sunday night, and that was kind of weird. But I mean, the first part of it was okay. It was fine. I was sort of busy just unpacking, getting laundry done, shit like that. I was so exhausted from the conference and whatnot,
Hungover.
hungover, tired. And then, so Monday as well, I was sort of kept busy. But Monday night, I just kept thinking he was in another room, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like if I was in the
Yeah.
lounge, I felt like he was in the bedroom and stuff like that. But yeah, so far so good. We keep in communication. Miss him, but yeah,
So
it
what? He'll
is
get
what it
back what
is.
just before Christmas?
6th of December.
Shit.
So all of November he's gone basically. But then I was thinking like, I mean, it's not even a week. I was thinking like when we get to the first week, it'll be like, oh, that's a week already. It's going quick
Mm,
enough. Hurrah. But
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, as it goes
God.
on, it'll get longer.
I would be pining. I couldn't do without him for 5 days. I was miserable by the end of it. You saw the state of me.
I did.
I need my baby.
No, I do.
I
And I miss
feel
him and
abandoned.
out in bed and kind of sleep and stuff like that. It's completely different.
The sleep's hard, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because you're
missing
used
them
to
next
having the
to
body
you're just
there.
used to them. Yeah.
A TV show that I started this week, and I think you would actually really enjoy. And I mean this with all sincerity.
What
I'm
about
only,
School Spirits coming back
yes, I know. I can't wait for that. They reckon
and Yellowstone?
2025. Yeah, no, finally we get the Yellowstone. Is Agatha all along? Have you heard of it?
Oh, yes. So I love Catherine. Is it Hahn? Catherine Hahn? That's her name,
Yes.
isn't it? I love her, love her, love her. The only
Yes.
reason I'm not, I've heard rave reviews about it. The thing that makes me hesitate is because it's in the whole Marvel
Marvel.
universe, and I'm just a bit like,
I know what you mean.
seen so many, but I've heard it's amazing.
I'm not a huge Marvel fan. Like I tried to get into it and do the whole timeline and stuff. And yeah, there's some movies I like. This doesn't give any Marvel vibes as such. Like
Right?
it doesn't have that
Yes.
whole cliche Marvel.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm only 2 episodes in. I watched the second episode last night and I'm completely fucking hooked. You, as I said, will really love it too. It's about a coven of witches, and it has the cast, as you said, of that chick.
Catherine Hahn. She's the
Yep,
main one, isn't
she's
she? It's also
fucking
got
hilarious in it.
Audrey Plaza in it too, doesn't it?
It's
From
got Aubrey
because
Plaza.
they're both Parks and Recs, both of them.
Oh, is she in that too?
She's the crazy which one are you talking about? Audrey Plaza? Or are you
Catherine Hahn.
yeah, so she's the big politician, a campaign manager who comes in and gets
Ah,
them to
well,
campaign and does
she's
stuff. And
fucking hilarious in
she's
this.
hilarious in Parks and Recs.
There's
She's the
Joe
best.
Locke, who's from Heartstopper. Um, from the, that show I
I know
watch. Yeah.
Heartstopper. I can't place it though.
There's Patty LuPone. You know Patty LuPone when you see her. She was a huge Broadway sensation. She's been in heaps of Ryan Murphy's productions as well.
Okay,
She's
sure.
very, very good. And a few others.
I heard it was very star-studded. Like there's heaps of
Oh, it's got the mother from fucking that 70s show.
Oh,
She
no
looks
way.
great and she's fucking hilarious in it too. She doesn't look really, you could kind of pick her voice for it, but she doesn't look exactly like Kitty from it. So
Okay,
she's
okay.
obviously aged, but aged well. So basically, I'll give you a quick thing of the premise. 3 years after being trapped under a magical spell in town of Westview, New Jersey, it's a spin-off from WandaVision. I'm going to probably go back and watch WandaVision after doing this. The
Tyler loved
witch.
WandaVision. He kept telling me I should watch it.
So at the end of that, the witch Agatha Harkness escapes with the help. She gets locked in a 3 year spell trap thing, basically. But she escapes that through the help of a goth teen who's a guy from Heartstopper. And the goth teen wants to face the trials of the legendary Witch's Road. But they need a coven to go and do that. And if you go do the Witch's Road, you get your powers get amplified or some shit like that. You get really strong powers. But Agatha doesn't have her magical powers at the moment. So she and the teen have to form a new coven of witches to face the trials. And that's where I'm at the moment. They've just got to the Witch's Road. But they've got their list of all these other witches. And I read this thing today, which I'm going to read for you now. Because it's been getting rave reviews, but it's also been getting
Rave
slated
reviews.
apparently as
Oh,
well.
okay. Well, it wouldn't
So
be everyone Marvel's cup of tea,
cup
I
of
guess.
tea. And that's what they say. So in this post I saw, it says Husband, I'm surprised you like Agatha. You don't really like Marvel, and it's getting meh reviews. Wife takes a deep breath. Well, and then the son interrupting. It's a show about women over 40, queer people and minorities being powerful. It's a superhero movie show that says they'll hang on. It's a superhero show that says they're all interesting enough to have their own story without adding a guy perspective or making the story about how to appeal to the guy superheroes to bring in dude bro viewers. Obviously, that bugs the dudes, bro. Some shit. So, and it is like when I thought about it, I didn't think about it, but there's you got the queer thing.
I love that.
3 of the main characters, I'd say, are over 40, maybe
Yeah.
4, and it's just really, it's really, really fucking cool and eclectic. They've all got their different talents. One's does divination. What is it?
Divination. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think you said it right the first time.
one does potions, one is something else, and blah 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 blah. But it's super cool. When I first watched the first episode, I was only half watching it and on my phone and shit like that. After watching the second episode, I'm now going back to watch the first one again so I can absorb it all. It's just super cool. You would actually really like it. I know you like your witchy poo shit too.
I do love my witchy poo stuff.
Then I read an article today, another one that came out about Matthew Shepard. So it's got Shepard killer remains caged. This is the article. The Wyoming Board of Parole refused early release for one of the men who murdered 21-year-old gay student Matthew Shepard in 98. Russell Henderson, who's now 47, whose murder of Shepard caused international outrage and led to a new Hate Crimes Prevention Act in the US, asked to have his sentence reduced, but was denied. Shepard was beaten, set on fire, and left to die in Wyoming field by Henderson and his accomplice Aaron McKinney because he was gay. His brutal killing in the aftermath was made into a play and film, both called The Laramie Project and many others. But yes, just because he's been popping up a bit lately with our podcast, so I thought I'd drop.
I was going to say because he was the lead guy, wasn't he? He was the main instigator, that one.
Yeah, fucking rotten, isn't it? But yeah, I'm glad that they've said nope, you're in, bitch.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, so that's my week. After this podcast, I'm going to go back and rewatch episode 1 of Agatha all along, and probably just go into the second one because I think it's a week by week release as well. So I think there's only 4 episodes out so far.
Well, after we finish this podcast, I'm going to do research for our next podcast episode.
Oh, very good for you.
By watching a movie.
Very good. Yeah, actually, I need to do that too. I have to watch the second one.
I have to watch 2 before Thursday.
All right, shall we get into our topics?
Please, let's do it.
So,
how gruesome. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we sitting with you?
Oh, it's not one of my gruesome ones. It's tragic.
You say that every time.
I'm doing one that I've wanted to do for a while, but I wanted to wait until I could do it justice. And because I kind of had my notes ready for this last week, so I had time to sort of flesh it out more. I'm going to do.
I have to say, I really struggled with Australian true crime for this one. I struggled to find one that had enough, content towards it. Yeah, I found that the same ones, when I try to research new ones, the same ones just keep popping up over and over. All the ones that I've had on my list for ages, when I go to look at them, there's just not enough information out there to make an episode out of.
Oh.
So it was a bit of a struggle. So I need to really call out to our listeners, please hit us up with Australian true crime stories, because otherwise it's just going to become an international true crime podcast.
Watch Australian crime stories on Foxtel and those shows. You'll get heaps from that.
Yeah.
So I'm doing Jill Meagher.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
All right. So you ready?
I'm ready.
It's not gruesome. It's tragic, of course.
It's very tragic, yes.
So Jill Meagher was born on 30 October 1982 in Drogheda, a town in County Louth in Ireland. She was raised in a tight-knit family, which included her younger brother, Michael, and her parents, George and Edith. Growing up, Jill was known for her outgoing and bubbly personality.
Oh, she was beautiful too, wasn't she? She was so beautiful.
Yeah. Friends and her family often described her as someone who had a natural ability to make others feel at ease. She was bright, compassionate, and full of life. In her early 20s, Jill pursued a career in journalism, attending Griffith College, Dublin, where she honed her writing and communication skills. Her passion for storytelling and her creative drive eventually led her to cross paths with Tom Marr, who would later become her husband. The two met in Ireland and quickly formed a deep bond. Their relationship blossomed over the years, and in 2008, Jill and Tom tied the knot in Dublin. Shortly after their wedding, the couple made a major decision to start a new chapter in their lives and move to Australia. In 2009, they relocated to Melbourne, Victoria. For Jill, the move represented an exciting new adventure. Australia's vibrant culture and sunny lifestyle seemed like the perfect place for her and Tom to build a life together. She quickly embraced her new surroundings, immersing herself in Melbourne's cultural scene. Jill took on a role as a producer at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, #ABC, where she worked in the news and current affairs department. Her colleagues at the ABC would later speak of her kindness, professionalism, and a sharp wit. She loved her job, and her passion for journalism made her a highly valued team member. She was known for her ability to connect with people, both on a personal and professional level, always going the extra mile to help others and make them feel appreciated.
Oh, bless.
Outside of work, Jill and Tom lived in the bustling suburb of Brunswick, a trendy area known for its cafe, music venues, and diverse community. That means there was gays there.
There's gays everywhere. Everywhere.
These gays are trying to murder me. They had settled into a comfortable life with a close group of friends, regular social outings, and plans for the future. The couple's relationship was marked by their shared love of travel, and they would often take trips to explore different parts of Australia. Despite being thousands of miles from her hometown in Ireland, Jill maintained strong ties with her family back in Drogheda. Spelt Drogheda.
I was going to say, did you pronounce that right?
I did have a look at
Didn't he
the
coach
phonetic.
you, did he?
No, the phonetic thing on it, and it comes up Drogheda. Like, huh? Duh. Do. La da da da. Where the fuck am I? Oh yeah, she kept in touch with her parents
Well,
and
you're in
brothers.
West End, Bliss.
She kept in touch with her parents and brother regularly, often sharing stories about her experiences in Melbourne and how much she was enjoying life in Australia. As Jill's career flourished and she built a life in Melbourne, it seemed like she had everything going for her. A successful career, a loving husband, and a strong social network. But tragically, on the night of 21 September 2012, everything changed.
How old was she again?
She
She was only young.
She was born in 1982. She was 30.
30. God.
On that Friday night, Jill wrapped up what seemed like a tip. Well, she was 29. She would have been 30 in fucking a month. On that Friday night, Jill wrapped up what seemed like a typical workday at the ABC. As it was the end of the week, she and her colleagues decided to head out for some casual after-work drinks. Love that. The group made their way to a well-known local bar in Brunswick, the Brunswick Green, just a short walk from Jill's office. It was nothing out of the ordinary, just another evening in a familiar neighborhood, surrounded by people she knew well. But as the night went on, one by one, her colleagues started to head home, and by 1:30, Jill decided it was time for her to call it a night as well, refusing the offer of a male colleague to order a cab for her, knowing her home was a short 10-minute walk from where they were. I know, you'd just be like, why didn't I? That's a 10-minute walk. I mean, I know you'd probably say yes to the cab, but a gal like me would do that walk.
Totally. That poor guy who offered to get her the cab too.
Imagine how guilty he'd just feel or frustrated he'd feel.
Oh, yeah. And
So
how he would replay that moment over and over in his head for the rest of his life.
And if I just did it, if I just
called it for her, if I just stayed with her and made her get into the cab and insisted. Yeah.
She set off on foot, heading towards her home in Brunswick. It was a route she knew well. Having walked it many times before, it was her neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she would have felt safe and confident, even late at night. And it was bustling, you know?
Yeah.
So she starts making her way down Sydney Road, the main street running through Brunswick. The area was still alive with people, the late night crowd spilling out from bars and cafes. So you do. You see, even like you're drunk, and even though there's other people drunk, you just feel there's people around.
Yeah,
There's
you feel
lights.
safe when there's
Safe.
people everywhere, especially where you know where you are, you know, every corner,
Exactly.
every alleyway.
Uh, so, however, that walk home would be the last time anyone saw Jill Meagher alive. As the hours ticked by in the early morning of the 22nd of September, Tom Meagher woke up to find his wife hadn't returned home. At
Oh,
first, he wasn't overly concerned. Maybe she'd stayed out a little later than expected or crashed at a friend's place after the night out. But as the hours stretched into daylight with no word from her, a deep sense of dread started to creep in.
oh, yuck.
Tom reached out to Jill's friends and colleagues, hoping someone might know where she was, but no one had seen her since she left the bar the night before. Growing more desperate, he took to social media, posting about her disappearance and pleading for any information. And this move would later become a rallying cry from the public as the case gains more and more
Mm.
attention. But in those early moments, Tom was just his husband searching for his wife, overwhelmed with fear. And the worst feeling, is when you like, I know we've spoken about Dallas. And I think I've mentioned on this podcast as well, when me, Kate, and Vinny just all got separated that night when I'm sure we were spiked. And I couldn't find Vinny for a couple of hours. And the
Oh.
fear, the feeling is just horrible. So you could just imagine how that just culminates into so much more fucking ick inside with each hour.
And
By
you're not
that
really
evening,
believing that anything bad has happened, but
happened.
feeling sick
Yes, just
and
like,
thinking the worst, but
but
then
expect
ultimately
hoping the
going, they're going to
best.
be okay. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. By that evening, with still no sign of Jill, Tom goes to the police to file a missing persons report. The police immediately began to treat the situation with seriousness, given that Jill
Good.
had not been in touch with anyone since the night before. In most missing person cases, the focus is often placed on the spouse or the partner,
Yeah.
and this case had no exception to that. So, despite the visible anguish on Tom's face and his frantic search for his wife, police had to consider every possibility,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
including whether her disappearance could be linked to something closer to home. In those early stages, Tom became the primary suspect. Investigators began probing into Tom's background and their relationship. They looked closely at his alibi for the night, questioning him thoroughly. Was there any tension between him and Jill, seeing if they'd had any recent arguments, what their
Just
state of the
reminds
marriage
me
was?
of
Rah, rah, rah.
Stephanie Scott. Remember when I did Stephanie Scott, the school teacher?
Yeah,
And he was the same. He was pleading,
on
saying this
TV
is
and
not
everything.
like her. And they were, everyone was openly saying, no, she got cold feet. No, she's just ducked off to, Sydney for the weekend and stuff like that. And he was like, no, you don't understand. This is not her. And they were just about to get married,
Mm.
like that weekend, the following weekend.
Is that the janitor?
The janitor who killed her in the school when she went back to do last minute prep for
That's
her
right, for the
kids,
kids.
and then he murdered her and burned her and put her in the
Fucking
field, and
prick.
they didn't find her until the day she was supposed to get married. I think the evening of the day that she was supposed to get married or
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. So Tom, however, fully cooperated with the investigation. He provided the police with all the details they needed, maintaining that he had been home that entire night and had gone to bed assuming Jill would return.
You'd be like, take my phone, search everything, search my car,
I ain't
search
got nothing.
me, take
Yeah,
DNA, do whatever
whatever
you
you
got to
need.
do.
But then you'd be freaking out. Are they going to fucking? I mean, it's not
Pin
middle
me.
middle
Yeah.
America. Yeah. Investigators also spoke with family and friends who all described Tom and Jill's relationship as loving and stable, no signs of conflict, violence, or tension that might suggest any motive for foul play on Tom's part. The real breakthrough, however, came a few days later when Jill's handbag was discovered in an alleyway just off Hope Street, a street near where she had been last seen. This was an area that had already been searched by police and volunteers in the initial stages of the investigation. So when they found the bag there after they'd already searched that area, it raised immediate Suspicions. Why had it turned up now? Was it planted? What the
Mm.
fuck's going on? So for a brief moment, this cast doubt again if her handbag had been placed there after the initial search, who could have done it? And despite this, Tom's cooperation and clear distress led police to believe he had no involvement. It was just starting to become clear that someone else was responsible for her disappearance. But without more evidence, they still didn't know who. So do you remember that when the bag was found after? So someone had gone past, seen the bag, basically pilfered it, stole it, took it home with them, and then has gone through it, seen Jill's ID and shit, and then she's come up as missing, shat themselves and gone and put the bag back.
Oh, see, I don't remember that. I remember her going missing, and everyone was hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But I remember it. I thought she got found like a day or so after, but
No, it was quite a few days. So yeah, so the guy went and put the bag back, then they found it, then that hits the news, and then the guy goes to the police and says, I found it, I took it, think he had just been left there. When I'd seen everything that happened, I put it back because her mobile phone was the only thing was missing from her bag as well. While her ID and shit were there too. That guy's cleared of being involved in the murder, the one who stole the handbag and put it back.
Well, he didn't, I guess, necessarily steal it if he saw it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
He just picked it up, like
yeah. But
granted,
his plan
he was going
was
to take everything out of it, but still,
Yeah. But he also might have tried. Yeah. Anyway.
And he also came clean like that.
Exactly. So as the search for Jill Meagher intensifies, investigators turn to one of the most critical tools available in cases like these, CCTV.
I'm surprised they took that long to get on the CCTV, please.
So Sydney Road, where Jill was last seen walking, was dotted with various businesses, many of which had security cameras that captured the movements of people passing by.
I suppose it takes a while to get in contact, issue the warrants for the CCTV.
Start researching all the fucking footage.
Yeah, get the contact details of who you need to speak to.
Exactly. Dotted with various businesses. They all had things. That's what I said. The hope was that these cameras might provide some insight into what happened during those final moments of her walk home. So after painstakingly combing through hours of footage, police finally make a breakthrough. And once you first get that first sighting of her and you know that time, then you can piece together all the others and make it into a story, basically, a map. They were able to trace Jill's movements along Sydney Road, providing a clear picture of her last known moments. The footage shows her walking northward on the street, just minutes after leaving the Brunswick Green Bar.
What an important job to have, though, being given that footage and being like, hey, sit there, be full on alert, look for everything, take notes, take snapshots throughout the video, catalog what you think it might be. Like, imagine how much concentration
you'd need to have
would go into such a job like that.
My ADD would not allow it. I'd be distracted so bad. Although I do have super focus on shit.
No, I think you would be really good at stuff like that.
So she appeared to be walking at a steady pace, seemingly unbothered, as she headed toward home. A 10-minute walk to remember. But as they continued reviewing the footage, something chilling caught the investigators' attention. A man who at first seemed like an ordinary passerby appeared in the background of several clips. He seemed to be walking in the same direction as Jill, a short distance behind her. But what made this man stand out wasn't just his proximity, but how his presence continued to appear, almost like he was trailing her. Because he talks to her in one of the footage things too, I'm sure, at the front of a shop, asks her a question, then walks off, and then you see him running back. This man was wearing a blue hoodie and a cap pulled down low over his face. He moved calmly, never too close to Jill, but close enough to make it seem like more than a coincidence. In each successive clip, the man appeared again, never engaging directly with Jill, but always lingering behind her, just out of view of those who might be nearby. As investigators pieced together the various angles and timelines from multiple cameras, it became clear that this was no coincidence. The man seemed to shadow her for several blocks, staying just out of reach, but was always present. The further Jill walked, the closer he seemed to get. At this stage, police didn't know who the man was or what his intentions were, but the footage painted a disturbing picture. She wasn't walking home alone, and someone was now following her. The grainy images from the street cameras weren't enough to instantly identify him, but they gave police a direction. The man's face wasn't fully visible due to his cap and hoodie, but they could get enough details with his general appearance, clothing, and movements. So they began a public appeal for information. And this is just 3 to 4 days after a disappearance. So they're on it right away. The footage was broadcast on national television, police urging anyone who might recognize this man, seeing anything suspicious on Sydney Road that night to come forward. And the local community, already gripped by the disappearance of Jill, responded overwhelmingly. Call and tips began flooding in, but the one tip stood out. A man who lived in the area contacted police after a woman who lived in the area contacted the police after recognizing the man from the footage. She mentioned that he matched the description of someone she had seen acting strangely around Brunswick on the night Jill disappeared, and the tip leads the police to Adrian Ernest Bailey. Armed with this new lead, the police quickly moved to locate Bailey. And by now, the media frenzy surrounding Jill's case is at its peak because, yeah, as you said, it was fucking massive, the attention it was getting all over the news and shit. And there was a real sense of urgency to find out who this man was and what role, if any, he had in her disappearance. So when the police finally tracked down Bailey, they brought him in for questioning. He seemed cooperative at first, but as the hours wore on, cracks began to show in his story. During questioning, Bailey initially downplayed his actions of the night of Jill's disappearance. He told police that he'd been out that night, but he hadn't crossed paths with Jill. However, as police pressed further, inconsistencies in his story started to emerge. So he talks about how he was out with his girlfriend, because he had a girlfriend at the time too, and then they had a fight about something. I think about him being too possessive and controlling, and she left. So he's angry when she's left, and then he's gone out on the hunt. Rick.
That's what he said, or that's what actually happened?
That's actually what happened. So his movements didn't quite align with. Did I say that? Pressed in, yeah, started to emerge. His movements didn't quite align with what he was claiming, and detectives had already begun piecing together evidence that contradicted his version of events. The pressure mounted when investigators revealed they had tracked Bailey's phone records from that night. So once they got a lead on him, they were then able to get a fucking, and start building their own case against him and then ask him questions to trap him up. Kind of like they did with that McMahon, was it Amy McMahon, the New Zealand one?
Yeah. I was thinking about the one with the kids, the one from England, the little soccer shirt girls.
Oh yeah, that was so sad too. Yeah, but they
Because
tripped her up.
they tripped him and her up, didn't they? Because they knew
Yeah,
that they
and they were
just
like,
needed to get some information to be able to pursue it more.
yeah, and they were saying things like they were lovely girls instead of they are lovely girls. So yeah, they use phone records from that night, and they don't match up with this story either. So police had methodically been tracing his movements using not only the CCTV footage, but also mobile phone towers to pinpoint his location at various times throughout the night. So you see him, he comes back with his car. You see his car going into a petrol station, and you see him buying a shovel, all that type of shit on CCTV. Maybe not the shovel, but you see him buying something, tarp or something. Faced with the mounting evidence, Bailey's demeanor shifts. The police weren't buying his story, and it became clear that they knew more than he had anticipated. Eventually, under intense questioning, Bailey broke down. What he confessed would horrify not only the investigators, but also the nation. At around 10 p.m. on 27 September, Bailey leads the police to where Ma's body was buried in a shallow grave on Black Hill Road near Gisborne South. She'd been strangled after he raped her.
Oh.
As news broke of Bailey, and that's a horrible way to go, strangled, because that's like waiting till your last breath is fucking gone, and you're sort of seeing the whole fucking thing and unable to do anything. Yuck. And it takes a while to strangle someone too, Not speaking from experience, of course. As I have choked a chicken in my time. As news broke out of Bailey's arrest.
When did you choke a chicken?
Choking the chicken. What are you doing, mate? Choking the chicken?
Oh my God.
As news broke out of Bailey's
Pretty sure
arrest,
it's not the same thing.
It's not. The media and public were shocked to learn that this wasn't his first run-in with the law. In fact, Adrian Bailey had an extensive criminal history that included multiple convictions for violent sexual assaults. He'd spent time in prison for rape and was classified as a high-risk offender. Yet, despite his alarming track record, Bailey had been released back into the community, free to walk the streets of Brunswick. This revelation, quite rightly, sparked media outrage across Australia. The public's anger was directed not only at Bailey, but also at the justice system that had failed to keep him behind bars. Many called for reforms to ensure that repeat offenders like Bailey could not be released back into the society to commit further crimes. And that was the whole thing about being able to walk at night as a woman. I can't remember what the thing was. Do you know the campaign that it was?
Yeah, yep. It shouldn't be about women having to protect themselves and be safe. It should be
Women
the
should be
fact
out.
that women should be safe.
Women should be able to walk. Yeah, exactly. At that time. Yeah. So in June 2013, Adrian Bailey was sentenced to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 35 years for the rape and murder of Jill Meagher. But even as the sentence was handed down, the shockwaves from the case continued to ripple across the nation. Protests were held, petitions were signed, and there were calls for stricter parole laws to prevent something like this from happening again. And I remember that too, when there was all those street marches and all that shit, and quite rightly so too.
Why
Because
don't they have ankle like monitors on them?
yeah,
Do you know
or
what I mean?
something.
Like if they've done it and they've gotten out of prison, they're a danger to society. I don't
Yeah,
care. Like fucking tag them.
yeah. And if it's multiple too. So multiple convictions
Give
for
them the
violent
curfew
sexual
that they're not
assault.
allowed out in dark hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're going to release them, sure, but you can't be allowed out after dark, and you've got an ankle monitoring system on you so that they know if you go out after dark, and then the police are there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. But imagine like even going out with someone that had been done, like you had a girlfriend. It's just bizarre.
she may not have known.
She may not have known. That's Anywho, da, 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 da. The case of Jill Meagher became more than just a story about a brutal crime. It became a flashpoint for change. The public's outcry led to changes in Victoria's parole system, tightening restrictions on violent offenders and making it harder for those with a history like Bailey to be released early.
Oh,
It's
that's
just weird that it
bullshit.
takes this type of thing for that to happen. Like, why can't you put two and two together? He's done it
Mm,
multiple times. Do you think this is really going to cure him this time?
yeah.
Probably not.
And then they escalate too, right? They
Yeah,
escalate. So
yeah.
at
Because
first
the
it's
thrill's
just
not as
assault, then it's sexual assault, then it's
then it's
murder.
sexual assault and murder. Yep. For many, though, the reforms came too late. Jill's death had exposed serious flaws in the system, and while justice had been served, the tragedy of her loss remained a painful reminder of the consequences of a broken system. For Jill's family, the loss was unbearable. Her parents, sibling, and husband were left to grapple with the profound grief that would change their lives forever, having to navigate a world without her. Jill's husband, Tom, emerged as a heartbreaking symbol of love and loss in the wake of her death. Do you remember any of his
I
speeches?
do.
Yeah, it was super
It's
sad.
heartbreaking.
Alongside Jill's family and friends, became advocates for change, tirelessly working to raise awareness about violence against women and the need for systematic reforms in the justice system. The impact of Jill's case rippled through the Brunswick community and beyond. Vigils were held in her memory, drawing hundreds of people who shared stories of Jill's kindness and the light she brought to those around her. Community members rallied together, uniting in their grief and anger, advocating for a safer environment for everyone. The public outcry that followed her death led to crucial discussions about women's safety and the treatment of violence offenders, highlighting the need for change in how society responds to crime. In the years following her death, Jill's story has continued to resonate, inspiring movements aimed at combating violence against women. Her name became synonymous with the push for justice reform, and her
It did.
legacy lives on through the lives she touched and the changes she's inspired. Jill Meagher will always be remembered not just as a victim, but as a vibrant individual whose life and untimely death sparked an important conversation about safety, justice, and the value of human life. And it's weird, that type of shit, isn't it? Like when you think like it should never have happened to her, and same like with Matthew Shepard, but like the legacy that's come about from their death.
Yeah, look, I think that, that's people trying to find something,
Yeah,
positive in a really, really horrible situation. But the fact of the matter is it never should have fucking
it should
happened.
never have happened, and that's what they're trying to do, is make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's the case of Jill Meagher.
Well, that's rich because I'm going to read you some stats in a minute, but I'm just going to grab another can.
Oh, so what's rich, you dumb
Well,
bitch?
my story's an older one, but whilst I was researching stories, Australian true crime, I came up with a couple of things that I thought were relevant for this episode. And that was the latest report by the Australian Institute of Criminology shows that there were 247 homicide victims in the 2022-23 financial year.
Sorry, how many?
247
Wow.
homicide victims in the last financial year,
Wow.
up from 234 in the previous year. Of those, 75 were women, and 34 or 49% of them were killed by a current or former intimate partner.
Mm.
And again, during my research, I came across a Facebook page called Counting Dead Women Australia. And at 26th of October this year, so a couple of days ago, there are 56 women who have died as a direct result of domestic related violence. How insane is that?
Yeah. Well, there's been some
And this
fucking
is up from
horrific ones
last year.
too.
So last year there was 34. This year we're up to 56, and the year's not even over.
Yeah.
Like, and
It's not even close.
I get what you're saying about, reform and inspiring reform. And look, we'd have to go back into figures way back then to see, what's changed and what's improved. But 34 is too many. 56 is definitely
way too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
And I just, the more and more that you see stuff on the news about women being killed by their spouse or their ex-spouse or by some dodgy dude who followed them home who has previous sex offenses, like sexual assault related offenses, like we need to do more.
Yeah.
And I get that there's, innocent until proven guilty, and that people are hoping that they will reform and
because of something, right? Though
things like that. But there has to be harsher consequences to these men who think that they can treat women like this. Sexual assault is a huge crime, and we see it all the time in the stories that we present, where they, get 10 months or 2 or 3 years for brutal, and maybe they didn't kill them, but because it's sexual assault, they get a very short time for it. And it's like, that woman will never be able to turn the lights off without fear. She may have survived,
always
but
be looking over your shoulder.
that attack
your
has changed the course of her life forever. It's changed, her relationship with sex. It's changed everything. Like, the trauma that is felt, like the consequences. Yes, the person has survived, but there needs to be much harsher consequences, I think, for sexual
it's the
assault.
same. Yeah, I agree completely. And like, this is another tangent, but it's the same with attempted murder. Attempted murder should be treated as murder because you tried to kill them, you just didn't get to.
Well, and it's the same with manslaughter too, and I'm going to talk about that in my one. So I'm going to talk
Manslaughter
about
can be a bit diffy though. I mean, like, if I accidentally threw something over my balcony and killed someone,
well, let me tell you this story, and you tell me if you think
intent.
it's iffy or not.
Well, there can be iffy.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think manslaughter where it's an accident, but I feel like manslaughter is very subjective, and it's loosely used in lots of situations where, for whatever reason, people don't want to hand down a harsher judgment as well. But I've got a manslaughter one, and the woman died, so yeah.
Okay.
Maria Korp, the body in the boot case that shocked Australia. So I'm going to talk about
the body in the boot case.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the perspective of a detective that was involved in the case first, and then I'll go into some of the other details. But former detective Narelle Fraser recounts a chilling memory that still lingers with her almost 2 decades later. A memory entwined with the nauseating odor that emanated from a car parked near one of Melbourne's iconic landmarks. That scene, which unfolded in early 2005, is one she remembers vividly. It was the morning of February 13, an anniversary that has passed 19 times since. But the memory remains fresh for Fraser, as the overwhelming stench was an unmistakable sign of tragedy.
Oh, God.
The woman her team had been searching for, Melbourne mother Maria Korp, was already beyond help. 4 days earlier, Maria had been reported missing by her distraught brother, setting off a high-stakes investigation and a citywide search by law enforcement. From the beginning, both police and family members had their suspicions. Maria's husband, Joe Korp, then 47, and his mistress, Tanya Herman, 38, were viewed as potential suspects. But before any conclusions could be drawn or arrests made, the primary objective was clear: locate Maria. It was a security guard who first spotted her red Mazda abandoned near Melbourne's Shrine of Remembrance, like a landmark, triggering a critical response from law enforcement. When the policewoman, Natalie Fraser, arrived at the scene, she was gripped by a sense of dread. Approaching the vehicle, she knew the moment was pivotal. The smell itself was a somber confirmation of what they had feared. Recalling the tragic scenes that remain etched in her memory, the former detective describes the overpowering smell that struck her as she and her team approached the car. We were still about 100 meters away, but the smell of decomposition was already thick in the air, she recounted. It was so potent that it made my stomach turn. I felt
Oh
this wave of
God.
anxiety because even at that distance, I knew exactly what we were about to find. As the officers moved closer to the vehicle, their worst fears began to materialize. It was at that moment that a chilling realization washed over all of us. Oh my God, it really happened. She's gone. It's a feeling I would never wish on anyone, the detective shared. One detail only added to the ominous atmosphere. The car windows were covered with condensation. Seeing that just solidified what we suspected. It was like the final sign that she was in there, Narelle said. With bated breath, they peered into the car but could not immediately locate Maria. That's when the terrible realization dawned on them. She was in the trunk. Nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to encounter. Opening the trunk, the team were met with a sight that was both heartbreaking and deeply unsettling. Maria Korp's bruised body lay inside, her slender frame bearing the marks of a vicious attack, with dried blood visible around her nose and mouth. The smell that hit us when we opened that trunk is something I'll never be able to forget, Narelle shared, her voice still thick with emotion. It was the most horrible stench you can imagine. It nearly knocked us off our feet.
It's fun. It's not funny, but it's interesting how like we can smell corpses when you smell a dead possum or something like poo poo. But it's funny how like apparently the smell of your own species, I guess, absolutely is something that really hits
Oh, it
you a
would
lot
be
harder than anything.
horrifying. And you know
Yeah.
how like they tie smell to memories as well?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
heard that before? Like,
Oh
if you
yeah.
smell like someone's aftershave, you're like, oh my God, it's an aftershave someone I used to know smell. Or you'll smell like a certain food and you're like, oh my God, I remember it smells like this
Takes you back to
burger I ate
childhood
ages,
as
ages ago.
well. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Certain soaps
Yeah.
remind you of things. Um Years later, that memory still lingers. I can still smell it to this day. It was awful, truly one of the worst experiences of my life. What happened next left the team in stunned silence. Acting purely on instinct, Narelle climbed into the cramped trunk of the car next to Maria without a second thought. I just felt this overwhelming need to be close to her, to hold her hand and somehow comfort her, she later explained. Lying there in the back, she looked so helpless, so alone. Something inside me just switched on, and before I knew it, I was in there with her. I was like, "Oh, you'd like destroying evidence there." But again, I think so. In that moment, even when you're a trained police officer, like there would be like that emotional reaction sometimes that happens when you see stuff like that.
To protect and get in and save, or yeah.
But there's a reason why I'm going through this story. Despite the overwhelming stench and chilling sight before her, Narelle acted on a deeply human impulse. It was just what I had to do in that moment. I didn't even think twice. It wasn't about police protocol or training, it was compassion. By all appearances, Maria Korp seemed beyond saving. The signs of decomposition and the hours she'd likely been confined in the stifling trunk left everyone convinced she was already gone. Her team assumed heartbreakingly that Maria had been killed and left in her car, but then something miraculous happened.
Oh no way.
As Narelle reached out to check Maria's condition, she detected the impossible, a faint movement. When I first got in the boot, I instinctively checked for a pulse, but I couldn't find one, Narelle recounted. So I placed my head gently on her chest, and then all of a sudden I felt it. It was just a small rise and fall, but
Would
she
she
was
say she placed a
breathing.
hand or a head on her chest?
Hang on. Her head.
Oh
So
wow.
she checked her pulse, and so she'd gotten in the back with her to comfort her.
Oh my
thinking that
gosh.
she was dead. Yeah. But if she hadn't done that and she had left it and waited, you know,
Yeah.
they would have just assumed that she was dead. The paramedics would have come and she would have been dead by that point. Without hesitation, a wave of disbelief washed over her. She had been certain Maria was dead, yet there was life stirring within her. I couldn't believe it. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but there it was. She was alive.
Wow.
Without hesitation, Narelle cried out, "She's alive! She's alive!" Her voice cut through the shock, rallying her colleagues who stood motionless for a split second before they all sprang into action. So everyone thought she was dead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
With urgency, they called for an ambulance and quickly began providing first aid. A fellow officer instructed Narelle to stay close to Maria just in case she woke up or could share anything about the harrowing events that had brought her there. Narelle stayed by her side, speaking softly, hoping her words would reach Maria. Maria was rushed to the Alfred Hospital nearby, where doctors found she was suffering from severe oxygen deprivation to the brain, significant head trauma, and extreme dehydration. Her condition was critical, and she was quickly placed into a medically induced coma to give her body the best possible chance to recover.
Okay.
Maria's journey to Australia began many years before this tragedy. In 1976, at the age of 21, she left the small island of Madeira in Portugal and arrived in Australia as a newlywed, accompanied by her first husband, Manuel de Goes. The young couple started building their life in a new country, and in 1978, Maria gave birth to their daughter, Laura. But in 1987, heartbreak struck when Manuel suffered a fatal heart attack, leaving Maria to raise their daughter alone. As a single mother, Maria worked hard to support her young daughter. She took a job at a tire company. It was there she met Joseph Korp, her supervisor. A friendship between them blossomed and they eventually began a relationship. In October 1991, the two were married, and 2 years later, they welcomed a son, Damien, completing their family. In 2003, Joe Korp's life took a new direction when he began chatting with a woman he'd met online named Tanya Herman. Initially, their conversations were innocent enough, but they quickly escalated. What started as flirtatious exchanges on the computer soon turned into a passionate affair. By the time the affair became physical, Joe and Tanya's connection had deepened and they started meeting regularly in person. Around 2004, Maria began to suspect that Joe might be hiding something. She confided in her daughter, saying she felt her husband was being unfaithful. Troubled by this suspicion, Maria started gathering her thoughts in notebooks, recording her feelings and observations, and keeping track of any clues that pointed towards Joe's involvement with another woman. Her suspicions were heightened when she began finding tangible evidence of his infidelity, bills, receipts, and other signs that seemed to confirm her fears. Then, about a month before the attack, Maria took action. She collected her notebooks where she had been documenting her suspicions and observations, along with any evidence she had accumulated regarding Joe's relationship with Tanya. She meticulously bundled them into 2 plastic bags and handed them over to a trusted friend for safekeeping. Almost as if she had a premonition and sensed what danger may be coming her way, she had taken steps to protect herself. In the early hours of February 9th, 2005, Maria Korp began to start her day like any other. At around 6 a.m., she made her way to the garage, ready to leave for work, unaware that a sinister presence awaited her in the shadows. Unbeknownst to Maria, her husband Joe's mistress, Tanya Herman, had hidden herself in the darkness, lying in wait to execute a plan that would alter all their lives forever. As Maria stepped towards her car, Tanya sprang from her hiding place, catching Maria entirely off guard. In a ruthless attack, Tanya used a strap to choke Maria, tightening it until she believed Maria had taken her final breath.
Bitch.
Once Maria appeared motionless, Tanya hoisted her into the trunk of her own vehicle, certain that Maria was dead and her mission was complete. Now, she had severe head trauma as well. But I couldn't find, because it's an older story, I couldn't find enough information about that. So they're saying that she strangled her, but she had severe head trauma as well. So it suggests that something more sinister happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's beaten the shit out of her a few times.
It would later be alleged that this brutal act had not been committed on Tanya's impulse alone. Investigators would claim that Joe Korp, Maria's own husband, had been the mastermind behind this terrifying scheme. I just don't understand how they always think they're going to get away with it.
I know.
Is it purely a crime of passion where they just lose their mind because they want to be together so desperately and they don't think about the potential aftermath? Or is it where
There's
they
so much
actually
ego.
think that they're going to get away with it and
Mm.
it's well thought out, like they actually plot it? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Like, I mean, there is crimes of passion when it's there and then it happens right in the moment. And that's why I'm glad we've got so many gun reforms here, because that's where most of those crimes of passion come from. But when you're hiding in the darkness, there's premeditative there.
early in the morning.
It's premeditated. And it's ego. Like, I'm going to kill this bitch. No one will fucking know about it. I'm going to be able to do this, and I'm this, and I'm that. And it's all about me, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's not to divert too much, but did you hear about the one in Logan the other week where she got hit by the car and she was killed and she was a young mother and she had like a 10-month-old baby, and the woman just came at her with a 4-wheel drive, like speared into her. She was unresponsive. She died in hospital. And it was because the boyfriend and her both they're both like up on charges, and I don't think that they've been charged quite yet. It hasn't gone to trial, but like, what were they thinking? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, it's in a car. They're going to track you down, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
I
It's
just
ridiculous.
think, what are these people thinking? And also, like, how psycho are they?
Yeah.
Allegedly, he had manipulated Tanya into carrying out the assault, promising that once Maria was gone, the two of them could freely pursue a life together.
That's
Um, Maria's injuries were severe and extensive. She remained in a medical induced coma for nearly 6 months, surrounded by family as they clung to hope that she might somehow pull through. Maria's guardian and power of attorney then made the heartbreaking announcement that artificial nutrition and hydration would be stopped, shifting her to palliative care as her condition had become terminal and could no longer be stabilized. He stated that doctors at Alfred Hospital advised her situation was beyond recovery. The decision sparked outrage among anti-euthanasia groups who protested outside the hospital and considered legal action, describing Gardner, the Guardian's decision as inhumane. If the doctors are telling you that she's beyond recovery, how is that inhumane? Like, although Joe Korp, the husband, initially intended,
People just get denial, you know.
I wouldn't want to be in that state. If there's no recovery for me, switch me off, man.
Yeah, I know, but like, you know, Tyler would want everything to, you know,
I know,
to
but
do
he
everything.
knows. He knows. He knows my wishes.
But you
You
know what
know
I
my
mean?
wishes, plus.
Yes, a musical.
So Joe Corp initially intended to challenge the decision in court. He later reversed his stance. Meanwhile, Maria's daughter, Laura DeGois, publicly supported Gardner, the Guardian's choice. Her death marked the heartbreaking end of an ordeal that had begun with a senseless act of violence. Tragically, she never regained consciousness. On August 5th, in the early morning hours, Maria quietly passed away 10 days after she was removed from life support. Joe's corpse life came to an end on the very day of his wife Maria's funeral, August 12th, 2005. That day, while family and friends gathered to say their final goodbyes to Maria, Joe's body was found in the shed of the home he and Maria had once shared. His death appeared to be a final chapter in a story already steeped in heartbreak and betrayal. Forbidden by family to attend the service, Joe Korp invited the media to a private funeral ceremony at his home where he sang Unchained Melody and The Lady in Red.
Oh, God.
That night, he contacted his first wife and then a newspaper journalist, telling both that he intended to hang himself in his garage. Both contacted police, who rushed to the house to find him standing on a ladder with a noose around his neck while talking on a mobile phone. According to the police report, he was looking at them through the garage window when the ladder tripped over. Police believe he may have been trying to regain his footing when the ladder fell. No one rushed to save him.
So it sounds very.
So the police got there, saw him through the window on the phone with the noose. Then he fell, and then he died. No one rushed to his rescue.
Oh, he died.
Oh, he died. Yeah. Surrounding his body were photographs of Korp, football memorabilia, and notes professing his innocence. The media reported that he was on the phone to his solicitor at the time he died, and that the coroner's toxicology report indicated an alcohol reading of 0.15. So the police were there.
That's just
the police
3
saw
times
him.
over the legal
Yeah, they
limit.
saw him through the window, on with the noose, and then he fell, or tripped, or tried to kill himself, but they didn't get there in time to resuscitate him anyway.
Wow. So they
make of what you will with that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tanya Herman, Joe's lover, and the person responsible for Maria's brutal assault faced the consequences of her actions in court. She was sentenced to a minimum of 9 years for attempted murder, during which she claimed that Joe had manipulated her into carrying out the attack on his wife. And I hate this so much, because I get that they say that they were manipulated, or whatever their reasoning is, but at the end of the day, they still were the person who did it.
Exactly.
However, before his death, Joe consistently denied this accusation, maintaining that he hadn't instructed Tanya to harm Maria. Tanya ultimately served just over 8 years in prison before she was released on parole in 2014. She married a fellow inmate, Nicole Muscat, and in February of that year was released into her wife's custody after serving a little over 8 years in the Dame Phyllis Frost maximum security prison.
So she married a gal.
Nicole had been released on parole the previous year after completing time served on fraud charges.
Interesting.
So she's free to live her life since 2014. So 10 years ago.
Jesus Christ. And she's the one who, well, he could have done the beating and the shit, but she strangled her and fucking ambushed her.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like, if that woman hadn't gotten into that car, into that boot, and saw that she was alive, she would have died on the scene.
Yeah.
By the time she would have gotten to the hospital, the paramedics had got there.
It's still murder though, because she
that's
died
what I
based
think.
on she died based on the injuries that they gave her.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So she was decomposing in the car alive.
That's what they say. Yeah, because of the dehydration, I guess. Maybe like the smell of the like
heat and everything.
The heat and so her body was already starting to shut down. And
yeah, that should be, as soon as someone dies based on something you've done to them.
Yeah, she did
that's
less than
murder.
10 years. How fucked is that?
Fucking cow. So he's obviously copped most of the brunt for it then, did he?
He wasn't around to be like,
yeah,
prosecuted for it. He was dead. He killed himself. It was left hanging.
Jesus
Somebody
Christ.
smashed the window. Nah, it's cool.
We're coming in.
He wanted this.
Yeah.
Just give him 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes.
Just look under that rock. Is there a key there? No.
Somebody.
Check the letterbox.
Who's going in?
Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I'm off duty.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Well, so just let the fucker die. I mean, but that was such a fucking...
That's a huge assumption, just based on my limited research as well. I don't.
But
this was from a police report in an article that says
if he's
this
calling these people, telling them he's going to kill themselves, he was on the phone when he
let him do it.
But he expected to be saved. He
I
was
think
just
he
trying
did.
to put on a whole,
100%.
Look at what I'm prepared to do. So they get him. There's the photos. There's the thing saying why he didn't do it. We saved him. Obviously, he's got nothing involved in it. But no, they just let it. Well, he just died.
Yeah.
What a prick.
I know. And also held his own funeral that he invited reporters to, and sung Unchained Melody and Lady in Red. What a piece of work, huh?
Yeah, totally. This is going to be great for my career. Lady in Red.
But yes, very sad.
Yeah,
and yet,
very sad.
Another woman dies at the hands of domestic violence, even though it was by another woman, allegedly. Well, she, she's gone to jail over it, so she definitely had a hand in it, according to her conviction.
Yeah.
But whether or not he was there, was involved, they could never really pin that on him. And I guess he was dead, so why try?
Yeah. Well, you can't, can you?
I don't
You
know.
can't.
I feel like, if there was more to it. But again, maybe the case ran cold and there was nothing more that they can investigate. And she admitted to being there.
But you hear a lot of it where a lot of cases where if someone dies in jail or kills themselves in jail, the case is just dropped. Like it's off.
Yeah.
They don't pursue the
finding out what actually happened.
Or charging that person with the death of anything because there's no one to charge.
Yeah.
Which is fucking annoying.
Yeah, because I'd still need to know. Like, I'd still need to know exactly what happened, who was involved, to what extent. I'd need all the pieces of information.
Yeah, closure.
Anywho.
Wow, well, thanks, you stupid bitch.
No, thank you, stupid bitch.
Once again, we've tapped our psychic core and done cases in a similar sort of vein again.
Yes, we have.
Without any prior consultation.
No. I was thinking, oh God, what are you going to come up with tonight? Because I felt like I was really tapping into some. I searched for ages for this story that had enough context, or content. I mean, to actually make a whole episode. But you're right. Maybe I need to start watching that Australian true crime on Foxtel.
Yeah. There's a few different ones.
But then we're definitely going to cross over.
Oh yeah, I mean, but there's still loads from that I haven't done. Like there's heaps of options. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, you stupid bitches, to our Australian True Crime Tuesday night soiree special. We'll be recording again in 2 more days with a little fun pop culture episode focused on. Would you like to tell the dear listeners, Skye?
TV shows that we haven't watched in a really long time.
TV shows?
And movies. Apologies.
Stupid
films,
bitch.
if you will, that we haven't watched in many, many moons. And we're going to rewatch and we're going to provide commentary on how well they have aged and thoughts that are provoked from watching them many years after we first watched them.
So my first movie is from 1988 and my second one is from 1996, which really surprised me. I thought the 96 one I'm doing was a lot earlier than that.
Really? Well, I haven't figured out my second one, but my first one is 1987. I was actually going to I was thinking it was much earlier than that. But it's a real doozy.
Mine are good. My first one is one that Vinny made me watch about a fortnight or 3 weeks ago for our Brain Dead movie night. It's like, I really wanted to watch this. We had to watch it on YouTube. That's where it's at.
Oh, really?
And as much of this is not my kind of film, it was quite enjoyable. Kirstie Alley's in it.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I love Kirstie Alley films.
It's quite funny. But yes, anyway.
Oh, you have to message me and tell me what it is, because now I've thought of one that I want to watch.
Well, I could assure you it's not the same one. Ours is an action thriller.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't thinking of that one. I was thinking of something else. But I did watch it with Tyler when we first started going out. So the last time I watched it was 6 years ago. Do you think that's long enough?
Yeah, I mean, if it's an old movie, you can give it a crack.
But I mean, I watched it. I was obsessed with it when I was younger, and then I watched it about 6 years ago with Tyler. So is that a long enough gap? This movie I haven't seen since I was in. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I fucking love that movie.
I haven't seen that in years, actually. Years and years.
Love it. I love it, love it, love it.
And look who's talking too with Roseanne.
Yeah, that's also really good. But the dog one's shit.
Dumb. Yeah. Look who's talking now. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, thanks for listening, you stupid bitches. We hope you enjoyed it. Share, like, subscribe, tell your mates, stick your finger up your bum, all the fun stuff.
Definitely stick your finger up your bum. If you like that kind of thing.
If you're into that. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.